Good morning, it's Wednesday, it's 9 o'clock, I'm Joanna Gosling. Welcome to the programme. Theresa May is facing yet another difficult day. After seeing off a bid by Conservative rebels over Brexit, the Tories are now facing the wrath of a Lib Dem MP who's on maternity leave with her 4-week-old baby. She's accusing the Conservative Party chairman of breaking a pact with her not to vote on Brexit. We'll be speaking to two MPs who have recently had babies about how it works when you're on maternity leave and there's an urgent vote. Also, a High Court judge will rule this morning on the privacy case brought by Sir Cliff Richard against the BBC for the way it covered a police raid at his home in Berkshire. Sir Cliff, who denied a claim of historical sexual assault, was questioned but never arrested or charged. We'll bring you that ruling when it comes. Sexting and not drinking alcohol, do they go some way to explaining why teenage pregnancy rates are at an all-time low? 16 to 18-year-olds spend more time on social media and are more family-oriented, according to a report out today. And I meet Finn the police dog, who was stabbed through the chest and the head with a 10-inch knife while chasing a suspect. Finn and his owner are pushing through a change in the law that will see police dogs and horses given the same status as serving police officers.
To see him go through that and be laid on the vet's floor with him, watching him fade away, and then for his offender to be charged with criminal damages if he was an inanimate object was very hard.
Hello, welcome to the programme. We're live until 11 this morning. Are you a teenager? Maybe you're pregnant or a teenage mum. What do you think is behind the sharp fall in the number of teenage pregnancies? Is it due to spending more time with families, less drinking and more time online? We'd love to hear from you on that and everything else we're talking about today. Hashtag Victoria Live. And if you're emailing and are happy for us to contact you and maybe want to join in some of the discussions on the programme, please do include your phone number in your message. Don't forget, if you text, you'll be charged at the standard network rate. Our top story today, Theresa May will address Conservative MPs later, following 2 days that have shown up divisions in the party over the issue of Brexit. Andrew Plant reports.
The ayes to the right, 301.
It was yet another close contest that Theresa May's government needed to win, and it did, by just 6 votes. Sidestepping a push by pro-EU MPs who are calling for a customs union with the EU in the event of a no-deal Brexit.
So the noes have it, the noes have it.
If that was a Tuesday of turmoil for Theresa May, next will surely come a worrisome Wednesday. First, she'll face her last Prime Minister's questions before Parliament breaks for the summer, after 2 tumultuous days that will have provided opposition MPs with ample ammunition. Her Brexit strategy has already cost her 2 cabinet ministers. Boris Johnson, the ex-Foreign Secretary, could break his silence in a speech that many expect would be seriously critical of the Prime Minister's plans. And that's just the AM. In the PM must face the Commons Liaison Committee, where senior MPs of all parties could grill her on her Brexit strategy. All that before perhaps the toughest test of all, a meeting with the 1922 committee of backbench Tory MPs, with the ever-present possibility of outright internal mutiny. Theresa May will be all too ready for next week's summer recess, but must survive one of the toughest days of her premiership first. Andrew Plant, BBC News.
Well, let's go to our political correspondent, Ian Watson, who's at Westminster for us. What is the atmosphere like there, Ian? It has been quite an incredible week, hasn't it?
It's an astonishing week, and it's not over yet. In fact, the Prime Minister's got a packed programme today. She's got to talk to sceptical backbenchers to resell her Brexit plan. She's facing Jeremy Corbyn at PMQs. But I think there are gallons, or perhaps that should be litres, of bad blood flowing around Westminster today for a number of reasons. Some Labour MPs are very unhappy with the 4 Labour MPs who basically helped the government out last night by voting with the government on that crucial customs amendment, allowing the government off the hook. There's bad blood between Conservative rebels and the government because they say some of their number backed off, threatened with the prospect of an early general election. They think that was way over the top and think that the government's whipping operation was intimidatory. And talking of that operation, there's also bad blood between the Liberal Democrats and the government because their deputy leader, Jo Swinson, is on maternity leave at the moment. And the way that Parliament works, she was paired with a Conservative. In other words, if she couldn't vote, somebody on the other side guaranteed that they wouldn't vote to cancel that out. And that person was none other than the Conservative Party chairman. But he did vote. He voted on that crucial customs amendment. And just imagine the furore had the government got through with perhaps just a majority of one. Now, he says it was an honest mistake and he's apologised on Twitter. But she says this was cheating, and there are fears that these kind of arrangements that help people who are on maternity leave might be undermined. And interestingly enough, I've been speaking to some Conservative MPs this morning who are casting doubt on whether that was a mistake, and they're also pretty angry about it.
Wow, thank you very much. We're going to be talking more about that situation with Jo Swinson, actually, with two MPs who both have babies. They know how the system works. We'll hear what they think about it a little bit later on the programme. Right now, though, let's join Julian Warwicker in the BBC newsroom for a summary of the rest of the day's news. Morning, Julian.
Joanna, thank you. Good morning. In a sharp U-turn, President Trump says he misspoke earlier in the week at his summit with Vladimir Putin. President Trump had supported Mr. Putin's assertion that the Russians didn't interfere in the 2016 US election. That's despite American intelligence saying that they did. President Trump says he got his words mixed up and had meant to say he saw no reason why it was not Russia. Here's our Washington correspondent, Chris Buckler.
With President Trump, nothing comes without a little drama, even what some might regard as an apology.
I have a full faith in our intelligence agencies. Whoops, they just turned off the light. That must be the intelligence agencies.
After so much outrage, he had little choice but to shed some new light on what he said in Helsinki, as he appeared to support Vladimir Putin's claim that Russia didn't meddle in America's presidential election.
I would like to clarify, just in case it wasn't, in a key sentence in my remarks, I said the word would instead of wouldn't.
President Putin, he just said it's not Russia. I will say this, I don't see any reason why it would be.
The sentence should have been, I don't see any reason why I wouldn't, or why it wouldn't be Russia.
But what Mr. Trump did yesterday was to betray the women and men of the FBI, the CIA, NSA, and others.
Former intelligence chiefs, political opponents, and even several senior members of Donald Trump's own Republican Party had lined up to criticise the president.
I understand the desire and the need to have good relations. That's perfectly reasonable. But Russia is a menacing government that does not share our interests and it does not share our values. And I think that should be made very, very clear.
So should President Trump be rebuked?
That was a question he didn't answer.
Germany is a captive of Russia because they...
But Republicans were embarrassed by the stark contrast of the combative Trump, who angrily challenged old allies at the NATO summit, compared to the president, who appeared all too cosy with the old enemy and sided with Vladimir Putin over America's own intelligence agencies. Chris Buckler, BBC News, Washington.
A High Court judge will rule this morning in the case brought by Sir Cliff Richard against the BBC for breach of privacy following coverage of a police investigation and raid of the star's home in 2014. The ruling is expected to give guidance on the contentious issue of whether a suspect who's not been charged can be lawfully named by the media. Legal correspondent Clive Coleman reports.
When South Yorkshire Police raided Sir Cliff Richard's gated home in 2014, he was in Portugal, but the BBC was outside with a helicopter. It broadcast pictures and named Sir Cliff as a suspect in an alleged historical sexual assault. Its correspondent Dan Johnson had arranged the BBC's attendance in advance with South Yorkshire Police. Sir Cliff denied the allegation. He was questioned, but never arrested or charged. He sued South Yorkshire Police and the BBC for breach of privacy. The force settled its case for substantial damages and apologised to the Star for the distress and humiliation caused by disclosing his private information to the BBC. The corporation denies Sir Cliff had a reasonable expectation of privacy in relation to the material it broadcast, and that if he did, there was an overriding public interest in its coverage of the investigation and search. The judgment's likely to give clear guidance on whether any suspect can lawfully be identified by the media before they're charged, and so has massive implications for the coverage of police investigations. Clive Coleman, BBC News.
Changing attitudes towards alcohol, education and family time have contributed towards a sharp decline in the number of teenagers becoming pregnant. That's according to a new report. Research by the British Pregnancy Advisory Service suggests teen pregnancies have dropped by 55% since 2008. Two-thirds of the 16 to 18-year-olds surveyed said they had never had sex, and 24% said they had never drunk alcohol. Researchers say there is virtually no evidence to suggest that taking omega-3 fish oil supplements prevents heart disease or strokes. The Cochrane review, which examined trial data from more than 100,000 people, concluded the chance of getting any meaningful health benefit from the supplements was 1 in 1,000. The number of teenagers taking risks on railway tracks has jumped by 80% in the last 5 years, new figures suggest. In the past 12 months, 7 under-18s were killed on the tracks and a further 48 suffered life-changing injuries. Network Rail has launched a campaign aiming to highlight the dangers of trespassing on the railways. It tells the story of Tom Hubbard, who suffered life-changing injuries after being struck by 25,000 volts of electricity when he came into contact with the overhead wires which power some trains. Video streaming services such as Netflix and Amazon now have more subscribers in the UK than traditional pay TV services like Sky and Virgin. That's according to new data from Ofcom. The media regulator says British television will have to change the way it operates to compete with the internet giants. Our arts correspondent David Silito reports.
This was far from scientific, but the results do reflect something of today's research. We asked people to pick a favourite. 1 or 2 plumped for Sky and the BBC. More went for YouTube.
I watch that every single day.
But the clear winner, especially with the young, was Netflix.
I think I'm Netflix too.
Oh! Subscriptions for online video streaming services such as Netflix and Amazon Prime now exceed those for traditional pay TV operators such as Sky and Virgin. Viewing of traditional TV services has dropped by more than 40% amongst the young, and the media regulator Ofcom says British broadcasters need to work together if they're going to compete.
We'd love to see British broadcasters, so the BBC, working collaboratively with ITV, with Channel 4, with Channel 5, so that they've got that scale to compete globally, making shows together, co-producing great shows that all of us can watch.
Creating a British Netflix, a British Amazon.
I think it'd be great to see a British Netflix.
The average 20-something now watches around an hour a day of YouTube. The one group whose habits haven't changed much are people over the age of 65, who still watch an average of more than 5.5 hours of traditional TV a day. The average age of viewers to BBC One, 2 and ITV is now over 60. David Silito, BBC News.
And that is a summary of the latest BBC News. More Joanna at 9:30.
Great. See you later. Thank you very much, Julian. Do get in touch with us throughout the morning if you want to join in the conversations that we're having here on the show. Hashtag Victoria Live. And remember, text will be charged at the standard network rate. We're particularly interested in hearing from you if you're a teenager and you agree with the view, according to some research today, that the reason for the teen pregnancy rate dropping so dramatically is because teenagers are much more interested in family time and being on social media. We'd love to hear your thoughts on that. So let's crack on, though, with the sport right now, because Chris Mitchell is in the Sports Centre. Hi there, Chris. England's cricketers heading for the World Cup. Are they looking ready for it?
Oh, yes, they are. I mean, there were doubts, weren't there, not so long ago when they lost to Scotland at the beginning of the summer, and everybody was going, oh, dear. And then the first game against India, they were thrashed, outplayed, and people were beginning to doubt whether they were rightly the world #1s. But in the end, they have won their one-day series against India, and in some style, too. It was a great performance in the third and what was decisive one-day at Headingley. England, brilliant Watch this from Adil Rashid to remove the Indian captain, no less, Virat Kohli. Look at his face. Oh, it was excellent too. The winning runs coming from Joe Root, completing another century. England in great form. The home World Cup now less than a year away.
Wayne Rooney.
We've got to concentrate on making sure we look to improve, we keep learning, and keep developing as a side. We've still got some young guys within this team that could do some special things for a number of years, not just going into that World Cup. And it's vitally important that we keep driving that forward. And when we get opportunities to be ruthless like we were today, we've got to drive it home. And it's just nice to be able to put all that thinking into practice and to do all the stuff that we say we want to do.
Chris, Wayne Rooney has been speaking about why he decided to move to America.
Yeah, he's been talking to us exclusively. Some wondering why he doesn't stay on at the Premier League. Others have done it. Ryan Giggs, Teddy Sheringham, playing on until they were 40. He's only 32, remember, but he's done 500 games in the Premier League for Manchester United, then Everton, 5 titles with United, in fact. But I think that Rooney here is showing a lot of self-awareness. He's done in the Premier League. He can't run as fast. He's not as good. So he's moved to America because things there are a little easier. He's actually said to us he didn't want to hang around and be a dead weight at Everton. Now, he made his debut for DC United this week. He's signed a 3.5-year contract there, actually, with the Major League Soccer club. They're one of the worst in the MLS, actually. Speaking exclusively to us, the former England captain says that his family actually played a big part in his move.
I just felt the time was right for us to have a new challenge, obviously in this league. And I've said before I wouldn't have come out if my family didn't want to come over, because obviously they're my priority, and so it was important that they come over for me.
Yeah, like I say, showing a lot of self-awareness, moving to a league where it's going to be easier for him, and doing it perhaps to suit his family as well.
And how much is he being paid for it, do you know?
I don't know actually how much he's being paid, but it won't be as much as he was getting paid at United and Everton. He will take a pay cut, but he follows a lot of stars that have moved there in the past. Frank Lampard, David Beckham, so he's following a well-trodden route.
On to golf. The Open Golf starts tomorrow. Does Tiger Woods really have a chance?
Yes, he does. He's not too old either. Well, he's 42 now. But if you look back at some past winners, recent winners, Ernie Els, Darren Clarke, Phil Mickelson, they were all in their 40s when they won recently at the Open. And Tiger Woods is actually saying that he's confident. He actually looks really happy as well. He's back at the Open for the first time in a while. That chronic back pain that he's had finally seems to have been healed. Now, he hasn't won a major in over a decade. He hasn't played the Open since 2015 because of that bad back. But I think this Carnoustie course, the links course, will really suit his game. And he does too.
Look what Tom did at Turnberry at 59, I believe he was. And so it's possible. Greg was there at Birkdale, I think about 54-ish, somewhere around there, 53, 54. It certainly can be done. You get to places like Augusta National, the golf course outgrows you. But link-style golf course, you can roll the ball.
Yeah, link-style golf. Basically golf with no trees, by the sea, the ball runs and runs and runs. You've got to be very good at putting, got to have a great touch. And that is what Tiger Woods has got. But who's got the best touch in golf, Joanna? I think it's got to be this man, Phil Mickelson. And I think if you're the other guy in what I'm about to show you, you've got to be a bit stupid or very confident in Phil's skills. Look at that. That is not an airflow ball. That is a hard golf ball. Look at that. So he's standing, what, a foot in front of Phil Mickelson. He's whacking a golf ball at the guy, and it just goes over his head. I was wondering, Joanna, if you'd let me do that. Stand just in front of me, we get a golf ball, maybe a plastic set, actually.
I'm really sorry. No, he didn't flinch at all. Did he have a blindfold on or something?
He didn't have a blindfold on, but if you look at some other angles on YouTube or Twitter, the guy does flinch.
Oh, right.
But it's when he feels the wind of the golf club coming up near his nose. He's like this.
Lovely. Thank you very much. See you later.
Will do.
Now it's 19 minutes past 9. An inquest has criticised the Met Police for a series of failings over the killing of a renowned engineer who was stabbed just yards from his home by a student who was suffering from psychosis. Dr. Johan Ensink was out posting cards about the birth of his daughter when he was murdered by Femi Timchang Nandap in December 2015. Prosecutors dropped knife charges against Femi 6 days before he stabbed Dr. Ensink to death. Nadia, his wife, had to go on to crowdfund £25,000 in order to get legal representation at the inquest after she was refused legal aid, something she was determined to do in order to get justice for her husband. Well, Nadia is talking to us now in her first national